Today we're going to review 3 streaming products that I've had in my smart home. Let's get going. Hello Automators, thanks for tuning in again. I'm Brian from Automate Your Life, and today I'm going to take the frustration out of automation by helping you choose between 3 of the most premier streaming devices in my smart home. Now before I tell you what those 3 devices are, let's get to today's video sponsor. Today's video sponsor is NordPass, whose next generation password manager is where security meets simplicity. Now, they have created a password manager that I think is specifically tuned towards automation experts like yourselves who have a ton of different passwords that they have to keep track of but want to keep secure. Now, I'm a NordPass user today, and you can go ahead and be one at nordpass.com/AYL, where you will find the ability to save 50% and get a free month of the NordPass service. We're going to start the reviews with the Fire TV Cube. So this is the top level device, the 2nd generation device from Amazon, and quite frankly, my friend Paul Hibbert did not enjoy this device. Next up, we're going to talk about the Chromecast Ultra, and this is Google's top level streaming device right here. And thirdly, we're going to talk about a Sharp Roku TV. So this is the full-blown smart TV that you can buy with Roku's full operating system on board. The Fire TV Cube is that top level device from Amazon, and really it doubles as a smart speaker, although a very poor smart speaker. It doubles as one with its 4-button interface on top, an actual included smart speaker, the full Fire TV OS onboard storage as well. And so, with its shiny exterior and sharp edges, it becomes a whole new class of device in your smart home. Some of the big things about the Fire TV Cube is its Dolby Atmos capability and all of the different HD formats that it can play video in. It also, within that Fire TV operating system, has access to all kinds of different applications. It's not all applications in the world. So a great example of that difference here in Canada is you can get a Sportsnet application, but you can't get a TSN application. And this was a question I had recently on the channel. You can't get that other application, and so you'd have to look for different options, and that's maybe where we'll talk a little bit about a Chromecast Ultra. But in general, the interface has just about every type of content you're going to want. The point of the Fire TV Cube is, number one, that little bit of smart speaker capability, so you can control your TV by voice just by yelling at it, and in a lot of cases you're probably going to have to yell at it if your speakers are quite loud or your Fire TV Cube is far away. You can control your smart home with it, so it doubles as that smart speaker capability. And then, the other upgrade reason for the Fire TV Cube is that extra onboard storage. And what that turns into, I think, for a lot of people who are going to want that, is the old school gaming or the old style retro gaming, and the ability to pair Bluetooth headphones and a Bluetooth controller to go ahead and control those kinds of things. So you kind of get that next level step up and a little bit more functionality. The biggest thing you're always going to like with any Fire TV device is, number one, you get this little remote which has the ability to voice control. So you can voice control with this remote just by pressing that button. The remote itself is very small. Kids love this remote, and I will say, just in general, it's very easy to navigate the whole interface using this, and that interface is great. So that's another big benefit of the Fire TV system. The HD formats they're awesome. They're fantastic. Everything I play on there looks great. And the wireless home theater setup that I showed you guys on the channel has really changed how I consume content in my smart home in general. This is the primary streaming device in my smart home right now. On the flip side, what I don't love about the Fire TV Cube, Paul showed a couple of things. The voice control interface is definitely not perfect. I don't think I've had the same negative experience that he has with basic searches and things like that, but I don't use the voice search as often as I think he was trying to use it in that video. I find this remote to be my primary control interface. So if you're not really looking for the voice control of the video services, then I think this is going to be a great option. I don't like the look of it. It is too shiny. I don't know what they were doing with the sharp edges on the thing. You can actually hurt yourself. I don't get it. But anyways, that's Amazon's design, and sometimes they hit and sometimes they miss, but it's hiding behind my TV anyways right now, so I don't care how it looks. The other problem is that wired Ethernet connection actually makes it impossible to use that home theater setup that I've talked about that is so important now. And what happens is it basically looks like it's on a different network to the Amazon Voice Assistant application. So then you have the Fire TV on a wired network, and it can't work in conjunction with the speakers from Amazon Echo series of products there. So that's kind of a big problem. But the biggest problem with the whole device is it's a $70 increase to go and get just the voice control interface outside of this remote from the Fire TV Stick 4K to the Fire TV Cube, and I just don't think it is worth it in terms of that upgrade. You get all the HD formats on the Fire TV Stick 4K, you get Dolby Atmos capability, you just don't have the ability to straight up by saying the wake word there to control your smart home and to search for things, which again isn't the best interface. So my recommendation in general is not to go all the way to the Fire TV Cube, it's to back off and go to the 4K. Here's why it's so important to have that home theater setup with the Fire TV Cube. And here's how it sounds without that home theater setup. Before we talk about the Chromecast Ultra, I want to remind you guys, leave those comments down below. I always want to know from these videos what you guys want to see full reviews on or what you need a tutorial on. Oftentimes I have the tutorial already, but you know what? You might not know it's in the library of videos we have here on Automate Your Life or our new Automate Your Life tutorials channel, which I'll leave a link down below to. Love for you guys to subscribe to that, help that channel grow. Moving on to that Chromecast Ultra. This is the $70 US Chromecast Ultra, and it has some upgrades over the existing Chromecasts that you might have already purchased in your smart home. Now, what it basically gives you is that 4K or HDR capability. So it's that next level of streaming, and then it also is capable of playing the Stadia service, or so letting you into that Stadia service. Now, that doesn't mean as soon as you buy this, you get into Stadia. That's a discussion for a little later in the video. But the other thing is it has a wired Ethernet connection, and I think that's the biggest upgrade here for what you're getting from the Chromecast Ultra. I think the biggest thing that I like about the Chromecast, the whole series of products really, is the reliability, and this is reliable at that 4K streaming level, and it gets a little bit hot. Don't kid yourself, but that's part of the device's design. So it's a little bit off-putting initially how hot it can get, and I've heard with Stadia in some cases people have had it turning off, but in general, once you set up a Chromecast device, it is extremely reliable, and it just performs how you want it to perform. And the other thing that I really like about it is kind of what we talked about with the Fire TV Cube having some limitations on the services. Really, from a Chromecast perspective, you don't have those limitations. You can almost always mirror your screen at the very least, and most applications have that little Chromecast button and you're able to cast to that. Now, the other thing to love about this is that wired connectivity, and that is really important because it can hit really hard on your wireless system when you're streaming content, especially at that 4K level. As we get more and more streaming content, we start to talk about streaming video games, this is going to be a really important thing for you. And so that wired connection, what I've done, just so you guys have an awareness to these kinds of solutions, is I've used Ethernet over power adapters from my router or from a network switch, and then I go to this with that same kind of adapter, and that gives me a wired connectivity capability. It might not be the fastest, but it does get me wired into places that I wouldn't normally have wired connectivity, and then that makes this extremely reliable and very fast. And takes that off of my wireless network. The other thing that's a really big deal about the Chromecasts is the inclusion in the multi-room or multi-speaker audio systems that Google Home gives you access to. So I've included this in actually as part of my bedroom setup now. So I have a stereo pair of Nest Minis, and now I have my TV able to stream. And what's really interesting about this, and this will depend on your TV, is that I can get this to stream without turning the TV screen on. So it remains dark, but now I have a 3-speaker system. And so the Chromecast being included in that multi-room audio is a big selling feature. One other thing I do love about this is I can transfer music between that device and other devices using the Google Home products within my smart home. So it becomes part of that whole system, and you can just transfer as you move between rooms. Huge benefit. Eventually it will play Stadia just on its own with a Bluetooth controller or the Stadia controller that Google is selling. But that's one of those bigger drawbacks, is that right now I can't just go buy a Stadia controller, or I haven't been able to as of yet. I've heard that this is coming, but we haven't actually seen that, and then be able to play those Stadia games. But right now that's not possible. I can't pair a Bluetooth controller and just start playing Stadia. I need the invitation. The other thing that I don't love is I don't yet have a home theater setup option with Google and their Chromecasts. I can see the pieces lining up, and I'm talking to you guys a little bit about that within our news updates, but it's not there yet, and this is becoming a real issue with what Amazon did. I did struggle with one of my older smart TVs actually causing me a problem. You have to kind of play with the settings, and I got some help actually from a gentleman who's commented on the channel here. We call him Bugs at Google Support. He did a great job helping me out and getting me tuned into the fact that it was my older smart TV that was actually causing the Chromecast Ultra to look like it needed to be set up every time I turned off that TV. So you might have to play with some of those older TV settings, but this is kind of normal for new technology versus older technology. Overall though, I think the Chromecast Ultra is the choice for a streaming product from Google at this point. That upcoming Stadia capability, the 4K capability being so important here in the coming years, I think this is the right level, and if you wait for a sale, you can usually get these at around $50 US, and I think this is my recommendation going forward for the Chromecast series. Now, the last product I'm going to tell you about is a Sharp Roku TV. So it's got the Roku OS on it, and we know how long they've been around in terms of their streaming devices. This remote looks really familiar to a lot of people because they have one in their smart home. They have a visual interface that looks a lot like the Fire TV, but they were kind of the originators of that type of interface. Now, Roku, again, they've been around for a long time, and the Sharp TV I bought has been around for a long time. But really what I'm reviewing here is not the Sharp TV itself. We have to more review this streaming service from Roku, because this goes into a lot of TVs and it becomes very powerful at that point because it's the OS. And you know, going into this review, that's kind of my favorite thing, is when you go out and you buy a smart TV, and you know, I talked about the issues I had with the Chromecast Ultra here. Those kinds of issues can show up because the TV OS doesn't get updated and they don't give you any new settings or capabilities because they're maintaining, as a company, and in this case it was a Panasonic TV, they're maintaining that OS, and this is always a struggle for companies to keep up with all the different TVs they've put out, the different OSs. They're not software companies, so they're not updating that all the time. But Roku is a software company, and they produce a streaming stick, a streaming box, and a streaming service, and the software that goes along with that is on all of those. So What I really like about this kind of methodology to streaming services is that my TV is going to last as long as Roku lasts, and I don't see that ending anytime soon. And that's the big thing. I love the interface that Roku has created. Their remote control interface is good. They have the little quick buttons here. I don't love them all, but I can use them. And their interface overall is very good, and I can customize it a little bit, actually quite a bit, in order to get to the services that I want. I'm not missing any of the big services that I want. Obviously, Chromecast with that Chromecast feature has a few more options. I also like that there are less ads on the Roku service than I've seen with the Fire TV devices, and that's becoming quite a negative over here on the Fire TV devices. Now, once you get past all of those great things and you get into actual ownership of a Roku, what you start to realize is there's maybe a few things that they're not able to accomplish that these kinds of companies can. So, you know, their casting capability is not nearly as good as the Chromecast Ultra. They don't have the home theater capability that Amazon has, and they can't make that happen very easily. So you're going to need a receiver and some speakers, and the integration with the voice assistants, I can't make it work right. I've tried a lot of different things. I've tried reintegrating, I've tried changing accounts, I've tried doing all kinds of things. Anyways, I can't make it work right, and I'm not the only one. I have friends and family who have Roku devices. They can't get Google or Amazon to do anything, even if Google and Amazon are saying I'm doing that and the integration has worked in terms of adding the device. It shows up in both of these apps, but I can't make anything happen reliably. And I think overall, if you're heading down this route, you're adding a lot into the TV price. And this TV wasn't overly expensive, but I could have bought something without the smart capabilities at a slightly smaller form factor for about half the price. So I start to look at these streaming devices as maybe more of what I want. So there you have it, guys. Now, we focused on 3 streaming products today, but when we do these multi-product review videos, we often really attack unique smart home products. So go back and watch our playlist of these other videos where we review 3 smart home products relatively quickly here on Automate Your Life, give you the high level, give you the best information about it, and then give you our recommendation. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and of course, don't hate, automate.